In 2019, a single order from Ethiopia's prime minister unleashed the largest reforestation mobilization Africa has ever seen. Over 32 billion seedlings in 4 years, planted with near-military precision, transforming barren land into new forests at a speed no one predicted. Were these trees just about restoring landscapes, or was there a far deeper plan, one that has changed economics, water, and power across the Horn of Africa? The answer reveals why the world should be watching Ethiopia right now. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's order in 2019 did not arrive as a suggestion. It landed as a national summons. Overnight, the message was everywhere. Ethiopia would plant billions of trees, and every citizen had a role. The call echoed through state media, schools, mosques, churches, and local councils. In rural villages and city centers, the government's rhetoric was unmistakable. This was not just about planting trees. It was a patriotic duty, a test of unity, and a challenge to prove Ethiopia's strength on the world stage. Abiy Ahmed's personal involvement gave the campaign its force. He planted saplings alongside school children and farmers, broadcast his own participation, and made the Green Legacy Initiative a centerpiece of his administration. Public events drew crowds in the tens of thousands. Local leaders were tasked with mobilizing neighborhoods, tallying seedlings, and reporting results directly to the Prime Minister's office. Ministries, regional governments, and even the military received quotas. The pressure was public and relentless. Failure was not an option. The 2019 launch was designed for visibility and scale. On July 29th, Ethiopia claimed a world record by planting 350 million seedlings in a single day. The spectacle was deliberate. State-run television showed government officials, celebrities, and children working side by side. Across the country, people lined up before dawn, digging holes in farmland, schoolyards, and churchyards. The campaign's language was urgent. Ethiopia had lost nearly all its forests in a century, and the consequences, drought, famine, and poverty, were fresh in public memory. Now, reforestation was cast as a national rescue mission. Abiy Ahmed's framing went beyond the environment. He spoke of restoring Ethiopia's dignity, securing water for future generations, and building resilience against climate threats. The Green Legacy became a symbol of self-reliance, meant to inspire not just citizens but also the continent. Official statements described the effort as a model for Africa, proof that mass mobilization could overcome decades of ecological decline. The campaign's tone was both aspirational and uncompromising. Participation was expected, and the results would be measured in billions. This sense of collective obligation set the Green Legacy apart. School children carried seedlings home. University students formed planting brigades. Religious leaders blessed the effort from pulpits and minarets. Even prisoners were enlisted to help. The government's messaging machine worked overtime, tracking progress, celebrating milestones, and reminding Ethiopians that their labor was shaping the nation's destiny. Under Abiy Ahmed, tree planting was transformed from an act of stewardship into a test of citizenship, one that would define Ethiopia's future in the eyes of its own people and the watching world. A number like 32.5 billion seedlings sounds impossible until you see the machinery behind it. Ethiopia's Green Legacy Initiative did not rely on a few showcase projects or top-down orders. It built a logistical engine that reached every corner of the country. At the heart of this system, a sprawling network of nurseries churned through the dry season, raising seedlings by the millions. Some were run by local governments, others by schools, churches, or youth cooperatives. In rural Amhara, teenagers organized into teams, tending rows of saplings before sunrise and after class. In Oromia, women's groups managed their own nurseries, earning income for every healthy plant delivered. Dr. Motuma Tolara, Deputy Director of the Ethiopian Forestry Development, described the scale as unprecedented. He oversaw a web of over 120,000 nursery sites, each responsible for meeting regional quotas. The numbers were tracked daily, not just at the ministry, but by local councils and even neighborhood committees. During peak planting season, trucks, donkeys, and even wheelbarrows moved seedlings across unpaved roads, from highland slopes to arid lowlands. The workforce behind this operation was just as vast. Official figures count more than 767,000 jobs created, many for young people and women who handled everything from seed collection to aftercare. On planting days, schools closed. University students joined farmers and civil servants in the fields. Each participant received a tally card, sometimes marked with the number of seedlings planted, sometimes with a payment voucher for a successful batch. But numbers alone were not enough. The government introduced a results-based payment scheme designed to reward not just planting, but survival. Local teams were paid more if their trees lived through the first dry season. In some districts, community leaders audited survival rates, and payments were adjusted based on independent counts. The system was not perfect. Experts pointed out gaps in monitoring, especially in conflict zones or drought-affected areas. Yet, even conservative estimates put survival rates at 79 to 83% in the early years. The logistics did not stop at planting. Regional forestry bureaus coordinated with water and agriculture offices to ensure saplings were watered, protected, and in some cases integrated into new agroforestry plots. Youth cooperatives took on long-term stewardship, managing woodlots and earning a share of future timber or fruit sales. The government's relentless focus on documentation, every seedling counted, every hand recorded, turned what could have been a propaganda exercise into a verifiable operation. By 2024, Ethiopia's nursery network had produced and distributed enough seedlings to plant the equivalent of 40 trees for every citizen. The claim of 32.5 billion seedlings was not just a headline, it was the visible result of a country mobilized at every level, from village elders to national ministries. The numbers are staggering, but the machinery that made them possible is even more so. Gavosha once stood on the edge of collapse. Decades of overgrazing and fuelwood collection left its hills stripped and its streams running dry by midsummer. Now, the air smells faintly of eucalyptus and wild olive. The ground, once hard as brick, gives underfoot, covered in a patchwork of new growth. Gavoka's transformation is more than a statistic, it's a living experiment in what happens when a community owns the land and the future it supports. At the heart of this turnaround is the local cooperative. Its leader, a former subsistence farmer named Tesfaye, remembers when the hills were bare and hunger was routine. Today, Tesfaye stands at the edge of a forest that stretches over 10,000 hectares. Nearly 12 million trees, acacia, juniper, fruit, and fast-growing exotics anchor the soil and shade the springs. The cooperative's records show something remarkable. Each acre of Gavoka's restored forest now sequesters up to 1.4 tons of carbon dioxide per year. For Tesfaye and his neighbors, this is more than a climate metric. It means steadier rainfall, cooler nights, and streams that last deep into the dry season. The benefits ripple outward. Women's groups collect wild honey from hives hung in the canopy. Youth cooperatives run nurseries, earning income from sapling sales and tree maintenance contracts. Farmers who once watched their topsoil float away in the rains now plant maize and teff along terraced slopes protected from erosion by living fences of indigenous trees. The cooperative doesn't just plant and walk away. Members patrol the forest, replant gaps, and negotiate grazing rotations. They track survival rates with notebooks and smartphones, adjusting payments to reward lasting growth. Income has followed the roots. Gavoka's honey fetches a premium in local markets. Fruit trees add new crops to family tables. Timber and poles, harvested on rotation, bring in cash for school fees and medical bills. The forest even draws visitors, researchers, aid workers, and increasingly other communities hoping to learn the formula. For Tesfaye, the payoff is personal. He points to the stream behind his house, once a trickle, now running clear through the dry season. He says, "We planted for our children, but the land is already giving back." Gavoka's story is not an outlier. Across Ethiopia, thousands of cooperatives are rewriting the rules of restoration. Their success is measured not just in hectares or tons of carbon, but in the daily lives of people who now see the forest as their own inheritance. On the banks of Lake Tana, the Blue Nile begins its journey north. Here, the story of Ethiopia's forests and rivers collides with science, and with questions the world is still trying to answer. Dr. Yared Alemu, a hydrologist at Bahir Dar University, has spent years measuring what happens when tree cover returns to these highland watersheds. His team's findings are striking. Untreated slopes lose as much as 530 tons of soil per hectare every year. Where restoration takes hold, that number drops to just 2.2 tons, a nearly 99% reduction in erosion. For farmers downstream, it means fields that once filled with silt now yield steadier harvests. For the river, it means less sediment clogging dams and irrigation canals, and clearer water flowing through the Nile's ancient course. But the story is more complicated than a simple win for trees. Not all species have the same effect. Eucalyptus, prized for its rapid growth and straight poles, now dominates many reforested hillsides. Yet its thirst is legendary. Each mature eucalyptus can draw up to 90 liters of water a day, pulling moisture from already stressed soils. In semi-humid zones, researchers have tracked falling stream flows where eucalyptus has replaced native vegetation. The trade-off is real: erosion drops, but water yield can suffer, especially in dry years. Local farmers and scientists alike caution that what helps the soil may not always help the river. The timing of these changes adds another layer of uncertainty. Hydrologic models show that the full benefits of reforestation, more stable base flows, less flash flooding, and improved groundwater recharge can take 5 to 10 years to appear. In some catchments, early gains in vegetation greenness and spring flow fade during droughts, only to rebound as roots deepen and soils recover. Satellite data confirm the trend: greener highlands, especially near intervention sites, but patchy results basin-wide. Bahir Dar University's studies echo what farmers report anecdotally: springs that last longer into the dry season, but only after years of patient tending. Despite these positive signals, there is a gap that no one can ignore. No government document, no interministerial memo, no formal strategy ties Ethiopia's vast tree planting drive directly to the operation of its major water infrastructure, including the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. The science is persuasive at the local level, but scaling up remains an open question. International donors and local officials alike want proof that billions of trees translate into measurable river gains. For now, the evidence is strongest in the fields and streams of places like the Lake Tana Basin, where the land, the river, and the people are all learning what it means to grow a forest and to wait for water to return. Norway's involvement brought Ethiopia's forest campaign onto the world balance sheet. In 2025, the Norwegian government committed $75 million to support verified forest restoration in Ethiopia, marking the country's largest international pledge for a single reforestation program. This was not a blank check. The funds came with strict requirements: every hectare counted, every ton of carbon sequestered, every tree surviving the dry season had to be independently verified. Norwegian officials insisted on satellite monitoring, random audits, and transparent reporting. The message was clear: global money would follow only if the data held up under scrutiny. The funding did not stop there. An additional $40 million flowed from Norway and Denmark, earmarked for Ethiopia's participation in READY+, the United Nations flagship program for reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. Here, the stakes were even higher. Under READY+, Ethiopia could access payments not just for planting, but for proven results measured in living, growing forests that store carbon and slow climate change. These payments would be released in phases, tied to annual verification cycles. The government had to prove that forests survived, that communities benefited, and that land use had genuinely changed. A Norwegian funding official described the arrangement as a partnership, not a handout. He said, "We're not just investing in trees, we're investing in trust. Trust that Ethiopia's numbers are real, that benefits reach rural people, and that forests stand for decades, not just a planting season." Ethiopia's Green Legacy Initiative became a proving ground for this model. Independent verifiers tracked progress using drones, satellite imagery, and on-the-ground surveys. The Global Environment Facility channeled additional grants into scaling up successful approaches, focusing on 6 pilot districts and linking local cooperatives to global carbon markets. As a result, Ethiopia's reforestation drive was no longer just a matter of national pride. It was a test case for how Africa could attract and manage climate finance on a global stage. A new player has entered Ethiopia's restoration story, one whose influence stretches far beyond tree seedlings or carbon credits. In Addis Ababa's corridors of power, Chinese financing has become a fact of daily life. Over the past 2 decades, Chinese banks have extended more than $13 billion in loans, funding everything from railways to hydropower dams. The Addis-Djibouti Railway, the Tekeze and Gaib hydropower projects, and the expansion of the national grid all bear the stamp of Chinese engineering and credit. Yet, when it comes to reforestation, the picture is less direct. No official agreement ties Chinese loans to the Green Legacy Initiative or to the nurseries blanketing Ethiopia's highlands. Instead, China's impact is felt through the infrastructure that supports Ethiopia's ambitions: roads that reach remote planting sites, power lines that drive irrigation, and a debt profile that shapes every government decision. Independent analysts point to a deeper calculation. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, standing upstream of Egypt and Sudan, has changed the logic of the Nile. For the first time, Ethiopia controls the river's flow at its source. Reforestation in the highlands reduces erosion, cuts sediment, and could stabilize water entering the dam's reservoir. But the science is tangled in uncertainty. Models suggest sediment loads might drop by up to 50% if restoration succeeds, but rainfall swings and species choices, especially the thirsty eucalyptus, create a margin of error as wide as 30 to 50%. Downstream, Egypt and Sudan watch every move. For them, Ethiopia's forests are not just about climate or soil, they are about water, power, and the future of the Nile itself. Chinese financiers, meanwhile, are betting on Ethiopia's stability and growth. Debt restructurings in 2018 and 2023 gave Ethiopia more time to pay, but they also extended China's quiet leverage. No one can say with certainty how much of Ethiopia's forest boom will survive the next drought, or what role it will play in regional power struggles. The numbers are real, but the meaning is up for debate. As one regional analyst puts it, the world is watching Ethiopia's forests, but the real question is, who gets to measure the truth and who gets to decide what it means? Today, Ethiopia's forests are expanding at a pace that defies global trends, while the world still loses over 10 million hectares of forest each year. As climate pressures mount and water grows scarce, every tree planted becomes a statement of sovereignty and survival. The real test now, can this momentum outlast the politics that sparked it? The world is watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.